And so it begins. Joseph Fisher. If you don't know that name yet, you're about to. This writ of certiorari now granted as the Supreme Court has absolutely imploded Biden's White House amongst many other things. Of course, involving one man. The man who's in court case after court case. Well, now he gets a little bit of retribution.
Starting right here and right now, because this moment is your moment, it belongs to you.
Actually, Donald J. Trump, this moment is your moment, and this belongs to you. Joseph Fisher, United States Attorney's Office, Pennsylvania officer, arrested, suspended from job over alleged involvement in the Capitol riot. That's Joseph Fisher. And what the Supreme Court just took up changes the landscape of absolutely everything in a series of unexpected developments that you need to hear, to believe, and that's what we're going to be covering for you here today. Okay, before we get started, you can take a guess what I'm going to ask you. I know, it's to look down if you haven't already. Make sure you're still subscribed to Lisa's channel. I know many of you writing in the comments, I can't believe you were right. Well, we watch this day in and day out. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure your bell is checked to all so you're alerted to upcoming broadcasts. And then, if you do me a huge favor, just above, click on that link. It's right there. Just click on it for me. That will take you to my channel. Make sure you subscribe there. So no matter where we broadcast, you know where to find us. So here's the ask. Pretend you're buying us a cup of coffee, because for the same price and for doing that simple act of gratitude, we're going to provide you weeks on top of weeks on top of weeks of videos each month, giving you the information that will shape your future and keep you absolutely up to date with what's happening right now. Again, just buy us a cup of coffee each month. Get to Restricted Republic discount code Independence monthly checkout, $4 a month for 2 years plus 14 days for free. Do it now, not tomorrow, not this weekend. We need you there today. Because if you didn't hear what just happened with the Secret Service texts involving Trump and who may hold possession of them, man, you missed one of the biggest breaking stories. That is the exclusive content we're going to do over there today. Join us and enjoy. But now back to this broadcast. Simple piece of paper. Simple line. Docket number 235572. Joseph Fisher versus the United States of America. Supreme Court deciding to take the case relating to the January 6th attacks that literally change everything. Oh, Trump's got to be laughing today. I hope it puts a small smile on his face. So much occurring over the last 24 hours. Just a little bit of retribution for all he's gone through, because now they're going to feel just a little bit like he feels. But this is actually involving three people, not just Joseph Fisher. No, it's involving Garrett Miller. It's involving Edward Lang or Jake Lang. And of course, as I mentioned before, Joseph Fisher, the man pictured on your screen. The Supreme Court agreed Wednesday to take up an appeal for a man involved in the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol, according to USA Today, who claims prosecutors overstepped the law by charging him with an Enron-era crime statute meant to deal with financial shenanigans. The case has been closely watched in part because more than 200 people have been charged with violating the law at issue, a prohibition on obstructing, now get this, official proceedings. It is the definition of official proceedings that will fall under the scrutiny now of the Supreme Court. This includes former President Donald J. Trump. If prosecutors could secure convictions for the felonies, they could try to tack on 20 years to prison sentences. Now the Supreme Court's taken up the case. The court will hear Fisher versus United States, a January 6 case challenging the scope of Section 1512C2, which criminalizes obstruction of an official proceeding. 2 of the 4 charges President Trump faces in his D.C. case, his Jack Smith case. This now puts it on shaky ground, thankfully. That section, first passed as part of Sarbanes-Oxley in 2004, has typically been used to prosecute destruction of evidence or similar conduct. It's applicable to alleged obstruction of the electoral count process, has been hotly contested since the start of the January 6 prosecutions, and the D.C. Circuit split sharply on the issue. It's been at issue. The Supreme Court will be the 3rd court it's in now. 18 U.S.C. 1512 U.S. Code, Title 18, Crimes and Criminal Procedure, tampering with a witness, victim, or an informant, moving down to Section C, whoever corruptly, and then subsection 2, otherwise obstructs, influence, or impedes an official proceeding or attempt to do so, shall be fined under this title or in prison not more than 20 years or both. There you go. Giving you a reference point. Not just a bunch of talk here. Showing you how this plays out. Why it is so significant. Incredibly significant, Salon states. Supreme Court case could derail Trump prosecution. The issue at hand here, Levinson explains, is whether the certification of elections results is an official proceeding under the statute. Does it apply to this statute? Was that statute meant to umbrella over all official proceedings? Major question. And what evidence is required to prove that the defendant acted corruptly in trying to stop it? If the Supreme Court holds against the government, it will make it extremely difficult to prove the heart of the case against Trump. White House is shattered by this. The last thing anyone wanted to see at the White House was for the Supreme Court to take up this case. So let's expand further. The defendant in this case is challenging the government's application of 18 U.S.C. 15C, which in part prohibits any effort to corruptly obstruct, influence, or impede an official proceeding. The government has interpreted this statute more broadly. They've taken this statute and they've applied it over to the events of J6, including the congressional certification that must happen by January 6 following a presidential election. Fisher contends that this statute applies just to actions taken towards tampering with or destruction of a document or a record. Back to the Enron origins. He points to the fact that the provision was enacted as part of the Sarbanes-Oxley of 2002, which was primarily aimed at white-collar crime. Now, how will the Supreme Court interpret this is the heart of the entire matter that just happened. If they interpret this is a white-collar crime involved with only the destruction of evidence and not the obstructing of a proceeding, man, Trump's landscape changes overnight. A lot of people's landscape changes overnight. The 1,000 or so arrested, just about 1,000 now. A little bit over 200 are impacted by this Supreme Court decision. A lot at stake would be an understatement. U.S. judge dismisses lead federal charge against J6 Capitol riot defendant. This is where it started. A U.S. judge already dismissed this once. But the appellate court, they sided with the Department of Justice. A federal appeals court sided Friday with the Justice, not this Friday, April 7th, I believe, with the Justice Department in a case that could have upended hundreds of charges brought in the Capitol riot investigation. The decision, however, leaves open the possibility of further challenges to the charge of obstruction of Congress, which has been brought against more than 300 defendants in the massive federal prosecutions following the January 6, 2021 events. In a 2-1 ruling, a 3-judge panel, this is back when, before the Supreme Court took it up, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit said a lower court judge was wrong in dismissing the charge in the 3 cases in which the judge concluded it didn't cover the defendant's conduct. Those defendants may ask the full appeals court or the U.S. Supreme Court to review the decision. That has now happened. And read any of the cases and you see there's a question presented. Whether the Court of Appeals erred in concluding that application of 18 U.S.C. Section 1512C2, a statute crafted to prevent tampering with evidence in official proceedings, can be used to prosecute acts of violence against police officers in the context of a public demonstration that turned into a riot, resulting in so breathtaking an application of the statute as to run afoul of Van Buren versus United States. In other words, they are calling the Department of Justice's use of this statute an egregious overreach of power. And they're asking the Supreme Court to rein in the Department of Justice's authority. That's as simple as I can put it. The Supreme Court will decide if the Department of Justice has used this statute inappropriately, and in doing so have wrapped up not only Donald J. Trump, but 300 or so individuals in an improper application of justice. This forced many reactions. Immediately thereafter, a federal judge pauses Trump's January 6th case amid appeal. Tanya Chutkin had to pause it because that's the grounds for her case. So if the more Supreme Court of the land is deciding on it, then there ain't much she can do. She had no choice but to delay the hotly contested overlapping trial of March, which will now most certainly not happen in March. Yet another victory for Trump. The House of Representatives has officially voted to continue its impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden. What a rough day for the Biden family. What a great day for Trump. Another victory for Trump. 24 hours just reshaped the entire government landscape. As they've passed impeachment inquiries, as they've delayed trials, as the Supreme Court has taken on something that the White House hoped they would never take on, but they did. And Joe Biden, man, he loses his cool, doesn't he? Statement from President Joe Biden on baseless House Republican impeachment stunt. As a matter of fact, I want to go back to the Salon article. Trump may try to leverage court's examination of unrelated J6 case. So it's okay that it's being contested, that the very statute is unrelated to the events of J6. You can prosecute under that. But Salon states, how dare Trump try to call out the fact that it is unapplicable and unrelated. The hypocrisy in these statements is beyond imagination. But back to the statement from President Joe Biden. I can read it because I won't stutter through it. I wake up every day focused on the issues facing the American people. Real issues that impact their lives and the strength and security of our country and the world. How's that gone so far? Unfortunately, House Republicans are not joining me. Instead of doing anything to help make Americans' lives better, they are focused on attacking me with lies. Instead of doing their job on the urgent work that needs to be done, they are choosing to waste time on this baseless political stunt that even Republicans in Congress admit is not supported by facts. But wait, all the Republicans in Congress just voted for it. But I digress for a moment. The American people deserve better. We certainly do. Wow, Joe and I agree on something. That may be the first time ever. I know what I'm going to remain focused on. I would invite Republicans in Congress to join me. Unfortunately, now the shoe is on the proverbial other foot. Trump gets a little bit of retribution here, and he gets to watch you now face the same thing. The same ongoing onslaught that he has faced since the day he stayed up, before the day he stepped foot in the White House. It was a great day in politics. Not only because it's phenomenal to cover, because we finally have some movement, not always in the same darn direction. Now we'll see what the Supreme Court decides. And this decision is not an overstatement. It's not melodramatic to state affects everything. Man, I love you all. I can't thank you enough for being here. Until next time. Godspeed and God bless. Justice Knight. Signing out.